Have you ever been embarrassed by your child talking back or being disrespectful when you're out and about, and you just wonder, how did we get here? Where did this child come from? You know, I'm sure you're not alone. I've been there, and I'm sure most other parents have been there. And so that's what today we're going to dig into in this podcast episode, is what to do with our kids or grandkids or nieces and nephews or whoever when they are being disrespectful. So grab a pen and paper. Let's dig in. Do you feel that your kids are growing up so fast and you don't have time to be the parent you dreamed of being? Are you sick of the heartache you feel every time you have to leave them to go earn a living? Does debt and money stress keep you from being totally present with your family? Welcome to Daily Paid Blessings, the Parenting with a Passive Income podcast. We are Melanie and Lou Borbo, small town parents with a now empty nest, and we realized too late how fast our kids grew up and how little time we actually had with them. On this podcast, we are going to show you how to buy back your time with passive daily pay so that you can strengthen the family foundation and help your kids and your grandkids become powerful change agents. If you are ready to ditch the 9-to-5 grind, make more memories, and parent with a purpose, grab your picnic lunch and a blanket and let's dig in. Oh, and by the way, if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with other parents who also want to know how to parent on purpose. I was listening to this lady inside our community the other night, and she was talking about how her 22-year-old son had kind of almost, reprimanded her for how she was raising the younger 4 children. Now, she's a mom of 8. She had 8 kids, so 4 earlier, and now she has 4 younger ones. In the middle of that, in the middle of raising those kids, her big kids are, moved out and doing their own thing. And her husband got really sick, and so he couldn't work anymore. So she had to get a job. And she said, and she was quite emotional because she said she knew that she wasn't doing what she did with her bigger kids. She didn't have the same kind of standard that she had, in past years. Now she has to work more. She has to help her husband more. And so these 4 younger kids are being raised by the TV, by the video games. And she said, I realized when my older son said that to me that something had to change in my life because I did not want these younger kids to be raised without the same values and morals and things that I had taught my older kids. And so that's how she came to start looking and had discovered the 2-hour workday and, this community. And so from here, she says, I'm so happy now that I can figure out how to make a full-time income and still only work 2 hours a day so that I have the time with my younger kids to raise them the way that I want to and the way that I know that is important for their success. And I just thought that was such a powerful story because how many times is that the case? Maybe not older kids, younger kids, but I mean, even still, we have lots of blended families, right? So that's the beauty of what we have here inside of this community, is that we get to master that 2-hour workday. So if that's something that you want to learn, if you think that's going to be something that's going to benefit your family, giving you more time back to be the parent that you want to be, then just drop your email into dailypaidblessings.com and you will get access to some videos and to the blueprint that will show you how you can actually work 2 hours a day and make a full-time income. So take care, and I'll talk to you over there. Hey, friend, and welcome back. Today in this episode, the reason I wanted to talk about this was because I had witnessed not very long ago a young dad really struggling with a disrespectful child. We were out in public. This dad is trying to have a conversation, and this young child is just screaming and whining and crying. I want to go right now. And the dad was, really kind of distraught and beside himself because, for one, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to have a very disrespectful toddler that is absolutely manipulating and dictating, like controlling you. That's quite embarrassing. And it's you just get flustered, right? Like I remember being there. You just get flustered and you just think, and then you get angry because now you're not doing what you want to do, and you just want this child to, to stop. So then we resort to different ways of reacting instead of responding. And then, usually it just escalates into something dumb, or we give in to the child. And then the next time that blowout is even bigger. So that's why I thought this episode would be really important, because it is important. Because who's going to teach our kids patience and honor and respect and things and people skills? Who's going to teach our kids people skills if we don't teach them that, right? Like, where does that come from? And I think it's so important. And I think it's a skill that is really badly lacking in our children today. Not just our children, but I'm talking children as a whole. There are so many kids that are disrespectful, and they are dishonoring of their parents and dishonoring of their siblings. And this carries over into their life. Like, this is the thing that I'm always saying at my job, is that we have to help these kids be better adults, right? Because we may think that we're giving into these kids and it's just for the moment and it's fine and who cares. But what happens when they go to get a job? What happens when they are, about to marry someone or they become parents of their own? If they've never learned how to self-regulate, if they've never learned how to have good people skills and how to have communication skills, what kind of job are they going to get? And how long are they going to keep it? How long are they going to stay in their marriage? Right? Like, then they're going to breed more of this into their own kids later on. So I think it's really important. And I think as parents or grandparents, whatever, whoever, that it's time for us to stand up and say, no. You know what? I used to tell my kids this all the time when they were young. I would say to them, God didn't give you to me so that I could be your best friend. Not yet. Not right now. When you're older and when you have your own kids or whatever, then absolutely I want to be your best friend. But right now, I am supposed to be your guide. I'm supposed to be the one that is going to steer you in the right direction and set you up for success. Right? And so my kids, they understood that, I guess. I don't know that they liked it, but they understood what I was talking about. And if you've been on our podcast before, you've heard me talk about a business coach that truly changed the way that I interacted with my kids, because she was teaching us people skills. Because she says, her name was Danny Johnson, and she said that if we as kids don't learn how to handle and communicate and whatever, have people skills, then we as adults have to now unlearn all the things that we learned to be successful. And that's what she does. She works with all these adults who have all these, belief systems, that are all messed up and jacked up. And they have all these things, barriers that are holding them back from being who they're supposed to be and doing what they're supposed to be doing. But she says, like, if that would start as kids, if we as parents would buck up and be the parent that we're supposed to be and not be this child's best friend, what a different place we would put these kids into. So that's what we're going to dig into. We're going to talk about some different things that we should be teaching our kids. And it doesn't matter if they're little, if you got littles in your home, or you've got grandchildren that you're, spending a lot of time with, whatever, kids on the street, whatever. You got little kids or you got teenagers. I believe that these things can be used. They might have to be modified slightly if they're teenagers, let's say, or even, young adults because now that's the thing, right? We have this whole generation of young adults. Many of them are disrespectful to their parents. They think that their parents are going to pay for everything. They think their parents are going to always bail them out of everything. And that is not creating a sustainable kind of community or atmosphere that's going to go forward and bring up more leaders, more strong, upstanding adults. Okay, so the first one is patience. And the reason I want to talk about patience is because when I think about this young child that was absolutely losing it just because the dad wanted to have a conversation for 5 minutes, I just sat there going, oh man, that is not cool, right? And so what do we do? What do we do in order to teach our kids patience? Well, again, I think the sooner we can start this, the better. But it's like, so if that young child or even a teenager starts talking back, and I want to do this, and just really interrupting and not letting you finish the conversation. One thing that I learned with my kids was to ask them, can you be patient? Even little kids can understand that. Can you be patient? And the other thing is to look them in the eye, right? Because it's easy to say something over their head and they're not paying attention. But I believe in eye contact. Really, like, I believe that that's a really good character builder, for one. And it's hard to lie or be disrespectful when we're looking someone in the eye. I find, anyway. Maybe I'm wrong, but so get them to look you in the eye and then just say, can you be patient? That always seemed to kind of bring my kids back down to oh, yes, I think I can be patient. Because now, whether you know this or not, but in the Bible, which again, I told you before is my favorite book in the whole world, but in Galatians 5:22 and 23, it says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. So what is long-suffering? To me, that's patience. That means you're suffering long for someone else. That means you have patience. So this is a fruit of the Spirit. And to love, that's a fruit of the Spirit, right? Goodness, so being kind, compassionate, all these things. Temperance, that's self-control. That's another thing that we're going to talk about is self-control. Because, so here's what I believe. I believe that the Word of God does not return void. It is created right in us, right in our DNA, whether you believe it or not. I believe that Word of God is created in us, because I believe that God created us. And if that's His Word, so now when we speak that word, it does not come back void. It goes out and it does something. It has power and it has a purpose. So when we look at our kids in the eye and we say, can you have patience? Right? I believe that that's a hard thing to say no to. So try it, try that. The other thing is preparing them, especially if they're small. So you prepare them for going out in public. And I used to do this with my kids all the time. I'd say, okay, guys, we're going to the store today. Here's what I need from you. I need you to listen. I need you to be walk beside mommy. I need you to have patience. I need you to, whatever it was I needed them to do in that moment. But I would have that conversation before we left home. And then they would know that if they didn't, then there was going to be consequences. Because I believe, and I think I was taught this from someone else, is that you discipline for disobedience. You don't discipline for that particular bad behavior. You discipline them because they're being disobedient. And that's putting all kinds of things into that category. And so my kids knew that there would be a consequence, whatever that may be. And because we would have talked about it. In many cases, I would say to the kids, okay, this is what I expect of you. And if you don't do it, then what is the consequence? I would give them the option. What is your consequence going to be? Because inside this little circle, this little set of boundaries, you can do whatever you want. You're free to do whatever you want. But step outside of that boundary, and now there's going to be consequences. So you tell me what the consequence will be, and then you have to, I will follow through on that consequence. And then you have to, you obviously have to have the consequence. And it was amazing how many times my kids would go, okay, they would pick a certain thing. And usually it was a lot harsher of a consequence than what I probably would have picked on my own. But I would follow through. And I'm telling you, that is one of the most important parts, is to follow through. Because if you don't, if you give in to their whining and their freaking out and their crying, the next time they have a fit, it's going to be 10 times worse. So you have to be the parent. You have to have the tough love. You have to guide them. And that sometimes means that they're going to cry and freak out and push you and test you to see what you're going to do. So in the case of this young dad, if it would have been me, I would have got down eye level, looked this little toddler in the eye, and I would have said, can you have patience? I want to finish this conversation. And as soon as I'm done this conversation, we will go. but I need you to be calm and I need you to sit here for a minute or go play with the kids and I'll be done in a minute. Because what does that do? That acknowledges that you've heard the child, but it also shows them that you're not going to be manipulated by their freak out, right? By their complete temper tantrum. So the more times you do this, the easier it becomes. And I'm totally speaking from experience. I don't know if I've shared the story about, my kids shopping. I would always have to take them shopping with me because, their dad was just always busy, whatever. And, I would have this conversation. Okay, this is what I expect. But my kids were really, really close in age. So they were all pretty small at the same time. And I remember my son was he was into everything. He was climbing up bunk ends. He was doing all kinds of stuff. And the talking didn't work, right? Like I tried to talk to him a couple times. I tried to put him in the cart a couple times. And then finally I said to him, okay, listen, I said, I'm done. If you cannot listen to me, then we are going to leave here without the groceries. And we did. I packed up, he's kicking and screaming, having a fit, and I'm carrying him out because he's like 1.5. I'm carrying him out under my arm. I've got a baby in a car seat on my other arm, and I've got my just about 4-year-old. I told her, you hang on to my pants and you don't let go. And so this is how I left the grocery store. And I put them all in there in the van, put my son, my freaking out toddler, in the car seat. And I sat there and I said, listen, I'm going to sit here until you stop crying. If you can stop crying and if you can agree to go back into that store and behave yourself, we'll go get groceries. If not, we're leaving. And I was fully prepared to leave without getting groceries that day. I thought, I am not going to let you dictate how I'm going to, show up in the store. So anyway, after 15 minutes or something, he finally stops crying and freaking out. And I said, are you done? Because that was another thing that I always ask, are you done? Right? And he said, yes, like in his little toddler voice. Yes, I'm done. I said, okay, we'll try it one more time. So we go in and he was a perfect angel. He sat perfectly, didn't move. And I mean, that was such a hard thing to do. I can't pretend that it wasn't, because it was crazy hard to do. But what did I teach him in that moment? I taught him that there was obviously consequences for his behavior. I taught him that I was not going to be controlled by his temper tantrum. And I taught him that he had to learn to have patience and to sit and to have self-control, right? I taught him all of those things in that one episode at the store. And I think that, I'm pretty sure that was the worst one that I ever had, because I don't remember him being so disobedient after that. Maybe in different areas, but the grocery store was always better, after that. Not saying that he didn't, sometimes I remember he kicked over a whole bunch of seeds totally by accident. That wasn't him being disobedient. But anyway, so there still was things, but in those moments, because we have so many teaching moments as parents or grandparents, we have so many moments where we can actually teach these kids some really important lessons, or we can give in and also teach them very important lessons for the negative. So the other thing that I think it's important that we teach kids is how to honor and respect each other. Because what does it look like now? We've got kids hating on kids. We've got parents hating kids. We've got all kinds of hate, all kinds of just horrendous things happening in the world right now. And why is that? I believe that it's because every generation just gets a little bit worse than the one before, unless somebody steps up and trains them to be different. And so when we are talking about honor, there's so much gossiping and name calling in amongst adults and kids now. If you go to a school playground and you hear, oh, you're nothing but a big baby. Oh, you're nothing, you're, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I think their name calling is even worse than that now. It's not even, not even just those kinds of words. It's a lot worse words. But one thing that I taught my daughter, actually all my kids, but I specifically remember this with my daughter, was she was being really nasty to her brother. And I had done the stop that thing. And then it finally hit me, this isn't working. She's not listening to a word that I'm saying. And so I sat down and I said, okay, I talked to her about how you honor people, how you respect people. And And I remember so clearly, I said to her, you have to say sorry to your brother, but not just like, I'm sorry for calling you names. It was like, you have to say sorry to your brother and you have to ask him to forgive you. Because here's the other thing. When we teach our kids how to forgive, man, what a powerful tool. So if they learn how to honor and respect other people, but we also teach them how to ask for forgiveness and how to offer forgiveness, man, we would live in a world so much better than we do today. Because what happens to adults who don't learn how to forgive? They become bitter, they become resentful, right? And that passes on to everyone that they talk to. So if we could start way back when the kids are small, then we can teach them this stuff before they become adults who now have hardened hearts and just crazy, bitter attitudes. So I remember I said to my daughter, I said, you need to apologize to him for dishonoring him, but you have to ask him to forgive you. Well, it's one thing to say that I'm sorry. She was pretty cold still. Her face was pretty, what's the word? Like, there was no remorse there, right? She was just, I'm sorry. And I said, now I want you to ask your brother to forgive you for dishonoring him and disrespecting him. And man, she broke. Like, she just started sobbing. And I just remember thinking, man, that is a powerful, powerful thing to do, because it's easy to say sorry. But here's the thing. If you say sorry without changing the action, is there any real remorse in that? No. And how many people in the world today have no remorse? They say, oh, I'm sorry for doing this. I'm sorry for doing that. And I mean, talking big things, hurtful, damaging, maybe life-destroying things. But they don't turn from their ways. They don't repent and turn and have any kind of remorse. So that little experiment, I shouldn't call it an experiment, because, I guess it was, because I'd learned it from this business coach. I'd learned that whole thing about getting them to ask for forgiveness. And that was the first time that I had used it. And I just thought, wow, amazing. Like, absolutely changed her heart. Did it stick? I don't know. Like, now they're teenagers. No, they're young adults now. So would it be nice to go back and have done that more often? Yes, for sure. And that's why I'm here on this podcast, is because, like my husband and I, he's not with me today, but my husband and I, we talk about what we would have done different as parents, or, things that we should have done more often that we'd learned that we didn't. And that's why it's so on my heart now to share this stuff with other parents, because if that business coach wouldn't have shared that with me, I think of all the things that my kids and I experienced in a better way because of what I learned from that business coach, right? And so I guess that's my passion now, is to just use all that stuff that I learned as a parent, and in all those seminars that I spent a lot of money to go to. It's stuff that I want other people to know, because it's really important, and it changes your life. Not only does it change your life, but it changes your kid's life and your kid's future. Because imagine if we did the hard thing now, which is, teaching our kids this stuff and disciplining them for disobedience, right? Learning how to discipline them and have consequences, and rather than just yelling, screaming, hitting, like all of that stuff. Imagine what it would be like to just have either your young kids or your teenagers be respectful and honoring of people, to be kind, to be generous, to be patient, to have self-control. Can you imagine what kind of a life that would be for you, for them, for the people that are witnessing that? It's such a beautiful thing. And it's, I heard someone say, I forget where this was, but someone said, pick your hard. We all have to pick our hard. And I believe that with everything in me. As parents, it's easy in the moment to give in, to let them have what they want. It's easy. But then you're picking a much harder hard later, when they have bigger problems. Like, they say that when they're little, you have little problems. When they're big, you have big problems. And I believe that 100%, that if we can pick our heart and be tough parents, not mean parents, but loving and encouraging parents, but still not letting them manipulate us. Wow, what a difference that would be. And I get it. I totally get it. If you are, these parents who want to be that kind of a parent, which I don't think you'd be listening to this podcast, in all honesty, if you weren't that kind of a parent. So you want to do what's right for your kids. You want to do, you want to teach them, about how God loves them and how God forgives them and how we need to do the same thing. We need to love others and forgive others like Jesus does for us. If you're that kind of parent, but you just don't have time, right? Like you're working full time, you got all these other things happening, and you're watching the behaviors happen, but you don't have time to do anything about them. I get it. I so get it. And that is another reason why I just want to share, that you can actually earn a full-time income working 2 hours a day. And so if you want to, find out about that blueprint, then go to dailypaidblessings.com. And all you have to do is put your email in. It's not scary. I promise you that email will not be sold or used anywhere else, but you will get access to that blueprint. You'll get to see what that blueprint is. And then you can make your own mind right from there. So anyway, I pray that this podcast gives you some kind of hope that you can have respectful, you can have honoring children, and you can be so proud of how they react and show up in the world. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. So I pray this blesses you, my friend. Take care, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye for now. Have you been blessed by this episode? Has it touched you or inspired you or taught you something? If so, would you take 30 seconds, and write a written review? Not only does it warm our heart to hear from you, but it also lets us know that we're giving you what you need. And it also helps other people find the podcast that may need this kind of information as well. And remember, beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. Take care, my friend, and God bless.